Father's Day. I want to recognize all the fathers. One of the greatest joys I have as far as my marriage was concerned was having the 3 children I have. I hope they don't hold me to this, but I think I have 3 of the best kids around. I really feel that way. I get exasperated with them as they get exasperated with me, I'm sure. But my wife blessed me, God blessed me with 3 good kids. And I am extremely proud to be the father of these 3. Steve likes to take photography, and I show his pictures everywhere I go. Ruth is doing a tremendous job in her job. And Mary Alice is, she's one of the assistant managers at the Vision Works in Louisville. So they do a great job and doing a great thing. But I thought this morning that I would talk about God being our Father. I want you to just think for just a few moments about God being our Father. And by the way, at the end of my sermon, in addition, Marilyn, I want you to hear this, in addition to how just as I am, which we will use as our invitation hymn, I want to sing one verse in the chorus of How Great Thou Art. So we'll do that. And I hope I have time for that because I'm going to be long-winded this morning. Long-winded. But if you examine the scriptures, how many times do you think that Jesus referred to God as our Father? Now, certainly he referred to him as his Father because he was. But how many times does Jesus refer to the fact that God is also our Father? I got curious about that this past week. And I went to the Sermon on the Mount, which is Matthew the 5th chapter, 6th chapter, and the 7th chapter. And I pulled up on my Bible program the references to Father in those 3 chapters. And I found out that Jesus used the term Father 17 different times in those 3 chapters. And every time he used the word Father in those 3 chapters, it was in reference to being not only his Father, but our Father as well. I thought that was quite interesting. And because Jesus referred to God as Father, I thought it was quite appropriate to be able to use this day, Father's Day, 2014, in a day to examine God as our Father. I think we need to draw great lessons as we examine God. And I think this will become apparent as we get through my sermon. But one of the things that really bothers me and really intrigues me was the question that is asked many times, how big is your God? I want you to think about that just for a moment. How big is God? How big is the God that you worship? Now, I don't want to take away from that question because I agree with the intent of the question. I agree with the idea that he is our Father. Spiritually, he is our Father. And we, as members and children of his eternal kingdom, we are afforded all the blessings that that relationship affords. And when you begin to examine the references and the idea of God being our Father and the blessings that we have, I think we can be overwhelmed at what all God has done for us. How great he is. How wonderful. And I think it's only fitting that we take a few moments right now to be able to examine some of the ideas about God. I think his greatness is seen in his creation. And don't you dare ever talk to me about evolution. I don't believe it. I don't accept it. I think it's nothing but a false teaching put out by Satan to try to destroy God. I firmly believe when we examine Genesis 1, 2, and 3, and up through the 11th chapter of the book of Genesis, that every word that you read in those particular passages, as well as the entire Bible, is absolutely true. I believe in a 24-hour day, a 7-day week. And I have been asked many times, well, how can God create the world in just 6 days and rest on the 7th day? I say it's not surprising to me, because he could have done it in a millisecond if he wanted to. He could have spoken before he even got the words out of his mouth. It would have been. I think God extended the creation just because he wanted to establish a 7-day week in which we would live. He's also, God's greatness is also seen in his redemption. I am overwhelmed when I see that God gave one person, his only begotten Son, to die for the sins of the whole world. I cannot begin to understand. I cannot begin to understand how the death of one person can cover our sins, as well as the sin of everybody that ever lived. But I believe it. I believe it. Because that's what the Bible says, and what God tells us through his word. I think the greatness of God is seen in his nature. He's omnipotent, which is a mighty big word, a $20 word, meaning the idea he's all powerful. He's all powerful. With God, nothing is impossible. I want you to think about that. Not only is he all powerful, but he's omniscient, which means that he's all wise. I understand that many years ago there was a professor at Marshall University, and I like Marshall, don't get me wrong with this, a professor of philosophy that was teaching his students. He would come in the very first day, and he looked at them and says, how many people believe in God? And the hands went up. And then he would ask the question, is your God so powerful that he can create a rock that he cannot move? And the students were really flabbergasted. Then he proceeded from there and taught anti-God philosophy. I was teaching at the time at the Huntington College of Business. And one of the students who was a good Christian came to me after she fell out of Marshall for a year because of that particular class. She came to me and told me that. I said, well, the professor needs to understand that God is also all-wise, not only all-powerful, he's all-wise, and he would not be so foolish as to try to create a rock that he could not move. She went back to Marshall. And after she went back to Marshall, she had the same class, the same professor, because she had to pass that class in order to be able to get her degree. He came in and asked the very same question, and she raised her hand and said, you don't understand the full nature of God, because God is all-wise, would not be so foolish as to try. She told me that he got so frustrated that he dismissed class and never did proceed with the lectures that he had on that particular subject. And she got an A in the class simply because of the fact she was the first one that ever answered the question that he asked. Our God is all-wise, all-powerful. He's omnipresent. That means he's here this morning. How wonderful it is to be able to think of God's love. The fact that Jesus died, his love is for all the world, even though the world is lost in sin. And many anti-philosophies have gathered. He's merciful, he's grace. Micah cries out in the very last few verses of his prophecy. He says, who is a God like unto you? He's the only one. He's all powerful, all great. And now we've got to think of some things about God. Is it possible to make our God too big? I want you to think about that just for a moment. Now, before I even begin, I firmly believe in the absolute teaching about the nature and the person of God in the Bible. I don't think we can alter, we can change that one bit.